All right, welcome back. It's now 7 minutes past 7 a.m. Good morning. How are you doing? Are you still in the house? If you're still in the house, then don't take my word. You can stay around for the next 1 hour as we talk about the viewpoint. Well, if you get late for work, it will all be about me because the show is going to be so good. On my set, I have Eric Muturi, who is a governance and political analyst, already in studio joining me. Eric, good morning.
Good morning to you, Victor.
Good to see you, son of Murima.
It's good to see you. And you know now Murima is very cold, eh?
I can imagine.
And very slippery.
It's the season, right?
It's the season. And you know, by the way, today I'm wearing Rigaathi's favorite tie.
I didn't know.
Yes. If you check his photos on social media, he wears this tie 3 times in a week.
I'll have to interrogate why that is happening. Okay. Mheshimiwa Sankok is also here. Mheshimiwa Sankok, you came all the way from Narok and you are here.
Yes. And I came all the way from Narok, driving myself. I left my car in Parliament, and then I walked here. As a person with disability, I have to walk 5 kilometers every day to remain out of a wheelchair. Otherwise, with my crutches, if I don't walk every 5 kilometers a day, you then will find me on a wheelchair.
You know, I have to thank you because when we invite you to the show, you have to come all the way from Narok. So I don't know what you're doing with yourself now that you don't want to wake up out of bed. He's already here. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
And Kevin Osido is also Executive Director of the County Governor's Watch. Kevin, good morning and good to see you as well, brother.
Good morning to you, Victor. And,
yes.
Thank you for the invitation.
Karibu.
Asante.
Let's start where we should. And this is the point where we start talking about what is making headlines in the course of this week. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Sankok. If you can, under 1 minute, what has been making headlines and perhaps what has been the highlight for you this week?
First, maybe the tie by my friend Eric. I didn't notice that, and I don't know what he was doing in Rigiji bedroom that he knows. Is it wardrobe or bedroom? That he knows what he wears 3 times a week. Anyway, you know, we have this issue of we are campaigning very hard for His Excellency the Right Honorable former Prime Minister Raila Odinga to be the chairman of African Union Commission, which is an equivalent of the President of the United States of Africa. So we are working very hard. We have been lobbying. You know, now as we are in geopolitics because we are in regional parliament, meaning we access head of states from the 8 member states. We also, by default, probably have friends who are very close to their presidents, who we sit together in parliament.
Yes.
So we have been lobbying because we believe Raila is the most qualified candidate for the African Union Commission. 2 things: experience. Raila Odinga have been the longest serving president of the Republic of Kenya, whether you call him the people president. He served with Moi. Moi came and went and left him. He served with Mwai Kibaki as a prime minister. Mwai Kibaki went and left him still standing, leading half of Kenya. He served with Uhuru Kenyatta through the handshake. Uhuru Kenyatta went and left him still leading half of Kenya. He also now serving with William Ruto. In fact, he controlled treasury through Mbadi. So this is the longest serving president. So he have experience. Again, Raila is...
What did you say?
He's the longest serving, because if you have served...
No, you said he controls
half of Kenya.
treasury?
He controls treasury through Mbadi. Now Mbadi is from ODM. So it's literally ODM who are running treasury. And if you run...
Well, I don't know how he controls treasury through Mbadi.
If you run a ministry that is in charge of all the finances in the country, literally you are controlling our budget. If you are controlling our budget, you are controlling all of us, because you go to where the bread is bad at most.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Every civil servant is now being paid by treasury, including you, Victor. So you can't buy the hands that feed you.
So
you are being fed.
Now the CS for Treasury.
ODM, and the leader of ODM is Raila Odinga. Yes. So he have experience.
It's a good revelation.
And then the last thing is that he's a peacemaker.
But you know that he's not the party leader now.
Have you resigned?
We have someone else
yes,
running the
but
party.
you know, running the party and being the owner of the party are two different
You
things.
know, you said that you are campaigning for him to be the AOC
he
chair.
can't do local politics.
And now
you can't have your cake and eat it.
maintain that
Mheshimiwa.
tempo. So
My friend,
it's not
Raila is
possible.
also a peacemaker. If you want to know that Raila is a peacemaker, is that he was jailed by Moi for 9 years. All of a sudden, they have made peace together. With Kibaki, you remember in 2007, there was this mantra of 41 against 1. All of a sudden, they were sitting together as co-principal, Prime Minister and the President. And then with Uhuru Kenyatta, they abuse each other, Mulefi, Muganga. All of a sudden, they have made peace. With William Ruto, you know, mzee wa kitendawili, sijui nini, hata slice moja mkata wezi pata, all of a sudden they are sitting together. So Raila can make peace with anybody, anywhere. So since as an African continent, we are faced with a lot of conflicts, Raila Odinga can really bring peace. So he's a peacemaker. Again, kama alitegua ile mtego ya Kashagwa, na akaingia State House. Hii mtego ya Al-Shabaab yetu ndiye atategua. Ile mtego yenye iko hapa ile si ya DRC ya ile rebels yetu ndiye atategua. That's why I'm really vigorously campaigning for Raila Odinga to become the president of the United States of Africa.
Very good. I wish Gaddafi was around to hear that statement. Kevin, what has been your highlight?
Asante sana. My highlight has been county governments. Still engaging on matters of disbursement of funds and the struggles that counties are going through. You note that the CS Treasury has been to the Senate, to the National Assembly, and back to the Senate. And this issue needs to be really addressed. And so as organizations whose interest is in governance, particularly for service deliveries in county governments, we are really pushing that devolution works and that it is made to work. And number two, we have been planning for what is called the World Environmental Health Day, which will be commemorated on 26th of September, a few days to come. And so we are partnering with various, we are partnering with various county governments. And so for here in Nairobi, we are part of the organizing team. And so we've been holding meetings to ensure that this day is a success and that it means something, and particularly in the spirit of climate change. So we are looking at how to build resilient communities that are able to deal with the risks associated with climate change, and therefore to also build their capacities to underscore issues of mitigation and also adaptation. And in the same spirit, you notice that about an year ago, the president launched what is called FLOCA, funding local climate change adaptation programs for all county governments. So as County Governance Watch, with other partners like PACJA, we are planning to undertake an audit of how the various funding models for county governments have worked, particularly to be able to address issues of climate change. So we've also been working around the clock to ensure that that study is a success.
Is there progress since the last conference?
Yes, there's been progress since ACS, Africa Climate Summit, the first conference. And part of the progress is indeed the fact that almost all the 47 counties, with the exception of 2, Mombasa and Nairobi, I think Mombasa now did theirs 2 weeks ago, have been able to put in place climate change units. Elections have been ongoing from the civil society organizations and the counties, largely whose interest is environment and climate change, and those elections have also been done. So almost all counties have their climate change units. There are also climate change acts that have been legislated upon and passed by county governments. And so those are aspects of progress. There's also been funds that have been dispersed to county governments, which is now part of what we are auditing from National Treasury, because the global partners pass the resources to National Treasury, and then they finally release them to county governments. And
I think that's a universal highlight. Talk about issue to do with climate change. That's a universal highlight. I mean, yes, Mheshimiwa Sanko, one minute, kindly.
Kevin, 1 minute.
I want to advise.
When you are doing audit, please do the audit about these tree planning shenanigans, where people move with helicopters and fuel guzzlers to go and plant 2 trees. You have spent more than 2 million to mobilize populations
and ban fossil fuel.
And you go, yes, and ban fossil fuel, and you go and plant trees in a school where children are struggling to get drinking water, where children are fetching water to cook their kideri from the river in the middle of a drought, and then you are planting that tree in an open place where it is not fenced, goats and sheep are accessible and cows. You don't monitor the success rate of these trees. I think before we go to the next tree planting day, a thorough audit should be done. My suggestion, if you do the audit, if the success rate is less than 10%, which I know is less than 10%, then we take this money that they use to climb helicopters, CSS and other people, members of parliament, we take all this money, give to wazee wa nyumba kumi and the chief, and they will give trees to specific individuals who have fenced their land, who have water, and then the tree planting will be successful for the 15 billion trees that
so
the
it becomes a
president
community project.
Yes.
Actually, Victor, there has been lots of progress on what Mheshimiwa is talking about, and not just from us as civil society organizations, but indeed from the Auditor General and the Controller of Budget. And there is a whole report that I think is almost 1 year old that was released largely on that particular issue. That government officials, particularly national government, spend a lot of money, you know, to basically do logistical work, which is to a greater percentage just transport. And yet the core of the activity is not given a lot of attention. And even for the activities or these processes that I'm talking about, we have tried to run away from engaging with government officials coming to launch a tree planting process.
Imagine 2 trees.
And hence the reason for the local units. Yeah, you know, we are talking about climate change units. People who live in those areas, they come from those areas, they know the adaptation models and even the trees that can grow in their areas. So that's why we are running, more or less trying to advocate that local communities be empowered to take charge of this process, and that if you have to come, then come with your speech if you want to read a speech, and you don't have to spend lots of those hundreds of thousands to millions of shillings just
that's
for
why we have
an event.
Agronomist or something?
Yeah.
To do feasibility study and see the soil suitability. Yes, Eric, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Victor. Well, my highlight of the week started on a bit of a sad note because the county of Kiambu is in mourning. We lost one of our members of county assembly, Honorable Ezra Kihara, who was a very good friend of mine.
Apologies.
In a road accident on Thika Super Highway. And the county assembly of Kiambu is going on a recess for 2 weeks to mourn our gallant son, who was, by the way, the county coordinator of elections in Kiambu County for UDA. So we started on a sad note. Then, of course, my other highlight has been the issues of the mountain. Sometimes when we discuss the mountain of Mount Kenya, I told you last time here there is a leeward and a windward side. And depending on who is on which side, the temperatures can flare a bit. We have seen temperatures are very high. I think the snow is now almost melting on top of the mountain. But I was also comforted beyond our borders. You know, at least Mheshimiwa is representing us beyond the borders. The Guinea-Bissau president, President Umaro Sissoco, will not be running for a second term. And the reason why he is not running for a second term is because he was advised not to, because people are abusing him on social media. So he said that if his countrymen feel he does not have the capacity to lead, instead of them abusing him on social media, he's not going to run again. And when I go to pray, I have been asking God, you know, when he's answering prayers maybe from other countries, that he should not forget our country, Kenya, that we, you know, he should continue praying for us also, Victor, so that things go the right way. Thank you, Victor.
Sissoko is a coward. You know, it is the people who decide whether they like you or they hate you through an election. That is not democracy. Saying that because people have abused me from social media, then I will not run for the presidency. How did he evaluate who abuses him and who does not abuse him? You can only evaluate through the ballot box. If you get more votes, it means those who are abusing you have. So that is a coward, and that prayer should not be answered in Kenya.
No.
Because that is a wrong prayer.
Allow me to leave it at that. What did you say? That prayer should not be?
Listen in Kenya, because it is a wrong prayer. You know, if you pray for people to be cowards, that when you are abusing social media, you don't run again.
Eric, what did you
know, what is the need of the democracy? Democracy is that you go for the election.
Just explaining my highlight of the week.
Or they don't want
Given the context of the country, Victor, maybe that is in the spirit of opinion polling. The president is probably undertaking a mechanism of an opinion poll, and he's saying, okay, my tool is social media. So if I am sampling 100 people and 76 of them
you are saying opinion poll.
No,
so it is an opinion. It is not a reality.
Yes.
You know, there is a difference between opinion poll and the real poll.
Yes.
So go to the real poll and then be rejected by your people, and then you go home.
But
when
he's an honest man. The president of Guinea-Bissau is an honest man.
This guy called Eric, or Kevin, starts saying, I can really beat you very fast.
Yeah.
And then I say, let me leave this guy. He's very strong. No, let's try.
No, sometimes wisdom dictates your life.
Allow me to take you through the front page of the local dailies very fast. Before you get into a substantive discussion, thank you so much for that. I like the highlights of the day. Okay, so of the week rather. Where we get it all wrong with police. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper. Where we get it all wrong with police. A revelation from the former Chief Justice, that is David Maraga, who has been chairing that committee. Report by Reforms Task Force led by retired Chief Justice David Maraga reveals that massive corruption at recruitment and training of many officers has led to an end product that is not grounded in matters law and security, and there are a pillar of their functions. That is what is here on the front page of the Standard newspaper, perhaps for the sake of evidence. That is, we have it. So you can take a look at that newspaper and read more in details. ODM irony, not in opposition, not in government. What are they? Blowing hot and cold at the same time. Kericho governor in the soup. Again, there is a motion, an impeachment motion which has been filed, and we are waiting to see how the MCAs will work on that. Again, Ogamba unions clash over intern teachers hiring, education matters. Counties run on empty, MAL shutting down, something that Kevin Osido also alluded to, that the county governments are not well lubricated to run, in as far as funds are concerned, to run the affairs and activities of the several counties. Courts blow to Ruto over parastatal's sale. The High Court declares the Privatization Act unconstitutional, thereby rendering government's plans to privatize key assets a nullity. That is what is here. We'll be taking a look at that shortly. And there's a photo here of President William Ruto, Raila Odinga, when they were attending the United Nations General Assembly, or you can call it UNGA if you like. Cancel the bad. JKIA, Adani deal, before it's too late, MPs tell Mbadi. We'll be taking a look at that shortly. On the front page of the Star newspaper, university fee burden laid bare in Parliament. That is 50% of new students unable to pay household fees, and 11,132 have appealed their banding. That is what I have here. So government says that only half of students have paid the requisite fees. And now Parliament has also directed the Education Ministry to give a circular allowing all students, with or without school fees, to do examination. And I'm also told that examination starts sometimes next week. So that is from the Parliament. On the front page of the Daily Nation, where they have here Ruto's Mr. Fix-It and links to Adani Group. The gentleman, Daily Nation, Ruto's Mr. Fix-It and links to Adani Group. Who is this gentleman? He's called Mr. Adil Arshed Khawaja, who was until recently mostly known for his legal practice and chairmanship of the Safaricom board. His role is in recent controversial multi-billion shillings deal involving Indian conglomerate Adani Group has, however, put his name on the lips of many Kenyans. But just who is this man who called Mr. President William Ruto, quote-unquote, his longtime friend? That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. There is a story that we are also going to take a look at, the costly fallout between the president and his deputy. And of course, when you come back, I should be starting with the issue of education. 50,000 students versus students can't pay fees. That is MPs were told. Let me take a break. And when you come back, I want us to circle back and talk about the issue of education. That is one which is touching many lives as we speak, as well as the issue of Murima. Yes, Eric said that it's getting colder by the day. I don't know why. But before then, how about you take a look at the weather forecast of the day? I don't know whether it is cold, hot, and we come back with a discussion.
Focus on the mountain.
50,000 actually are not able to pay school fees. Allow me to start at this particular point by welcoming Mheshimiwa Orero, who is representing the great people of Kibra constituency on set. Mheshimiwa, good morning. And Pole for the traffic. This is Nairobi. It's unpredictable.
Very unpredictable.
Yes. Let me start where we should. The education, I think it's because from your immediate not immediate, that is your background. 50,000 students, education. We've talked about this issue of university funding model, and now we are here. The reality is on the ground that 50,000 students are not able to pay school fees. Your fears now confirmed?
Of course, I think we have been here many times talking about this new funding model.
Yes.
And yesterday, we had a chance to, I sit in the education committee. Yesterday, we had a chance to meet the new CS of education and all the PSS of the education, the 3 PSS, trying to navigate on this model and what happens in the university. And I think that is where we agreed as the committee that the CS should talk to all the vice chancellors to allow those who have not been able to pay their fees not to be denied the chance of sitting exams. And it's not just 50,000. As we were talking yesterday, I think there were 63,000 students who were not able to pay the fees. This model really has not gone down well with the people of this country because they have divided that model into 5 bands. The first band is meant to serve those who are very, very needy. And then the 5th band is to serve those who are able to pay fees. But incidentally, you find that students who are needy still find themselves in band 5. The parameters which they are using, or the variables which they are using, are not really validated very well because they would waiting that those who have gone to extra county school, you find them getting to band 4.
Yes.
And maybe the size of the family. I said that these variables, really, they don't determine the household financial basis. And so we agreed that they must go and relook at this funding model. They must come up with a model that is tested and that can serve the interests of this country. And I think we have been talking about this. It's a new funding model. You know, initially we had DUC, differentiated unit cost, that was able to stand the test of time. But now, picking from it, this current model is in a mess. Like in my constituency, I have so many cases of kids who are unable to pay school fees, and they have been put in band 5. But I think it is something good to hear that the CS directed that all the students that are within the university must be allowed to do their exams. And as they correct this, we urge the Ministry of Education to look at it, the Higher Education Loans Board, the COOPs, the CEO of the COOPs, and they must look into it so that our students who are not able, who are their lives only depend on this education and they cannot afford school fees, should be able to join the universities and should be able to pay the fees using the HELB and using other scholarships mechanism, so that we provide education for all. Because education is an equalizer. It is where a poor child can sit with a child from a well-to-do family on the same table and in the same class. So I think as a country, we must sort out these problems once and for all.
Mheshimiwa, one of your concerns as a committee yesterday was that you proposed a complete overhaul of the funding model.
Yes, a complete overhaul, because we must have a system that serves the interests of the students. It must be student-centered as a country, because one of our main goals in this country is to provide education for all and to everyone. And we cannot do this when our education system is in a mess, when our kids cannot access education at the university. You have seen that the students are up in arms, that this model is not serving them. And we are saying that as a country, I was telling those who have the committee which has been formed to look into this, that when they come back, we want to see a system that the variable, the differences can only operate within 5 to 3% if there is any error or margin of error. But the current model has a big error. It's not between 3 to 5. It's about 50% error. So this cannot serve the interests of this country.
Yeah.
And I think that we must carry out public participation. We must involve the lowest level of unit. We must involve our chiefs. We must involve the people. It is the people at the lowest level who know who is poor and who is not poor. We cannot use certain parameters that cannot validate the economic status of our people in this country. So we must look at a model that will serve all Kenyans equally and allow our people to study free in education.
Mheshimiwa Sankok, based on that, I had to start with him because they had a committee sitting yesterday in the chambers, and now, according to the education CS, that is Ogamba, he revealed yesterday, Mheshimiwa, that 11,132 students have appealed against the allocation for scholarships, and students' loan, out of this 6,000 out of 11,000 students cited high cost of programs that they are studying as main challenge. He's talked about doing a complete overhaul. When you go to arid and semi-arid areas, the funding model and the banding is not actually favoring some of those students, because the banding system, according to the committee and even the findings out there, is not working for so many students. This number is so high, Mheshimiwa.
First of all, Ogambo, the CS, Ogamba, the current CS of education, I know him. He have been the chairman of KenGen. He's a very competent Kenyan whom I know will turn around the education system in our country. But Victor, when I was in the University of Nairobi, I was elected to be the SONU president in the year 2000. But within 7 months, I was jailed 11 times. I was tortured.
What do you mean?
I was tortured. I was intimidated. I was expelled from the university for being against commercialization of education through the introduction of parallel degree program that time. Because I knew if you want to destroy this nation, you just commercialize education. And then we'll only have the rich, even if they are idiots, studying medicine and professional courses that cost very high. And since some of them may be idiots, they will send Kenyans to medical tourism. In countries that don't train their doctors well, as the University of Nairobi, like India, we have been going there. We have gone back to herbal medicine. We have buildings collapsing because those who access civil engineering were those people with money, and they may not be competent enough. So I have been very consistent in being against commercialization of education. But we can make education very free in Kenya. Victor, we have HELB loan, which is 32 billion. We have NGAF bursary, which is 1 billion. We have CDF bursary, which is 20 billion. We have presidential bursary, which is 3 billion. We have student capitation, which is 200 billion. We have county government bursaries, which is approximately 30 billion. We have university funding, university fund, which is 20 billion. All this is passing through the hands of commercial eaters so that they can eat the money. Commercial eaters are the likes of the salaries and remuneration that we pay for 290 CDF officers and officers. It is the amount of money we pay to 1,800 ward bursary committees. It is the money that we pay to 47 county coordinators of NGAF, National Government Affirmative Action Fund. It is the amount of money that we pay for the management of higher education loan board, including renting anniversary towers. It is the amount of money that we pay for all these allowances that goes there. If we take the 306 billion, put them together, because the government is the owner of this 306 billion. The government, through NEMIS, have the individual number of each student, the grade the student is, the school the student is, the head teacher, the account number of the school of that student. So instead of passing through so many eaters, why don't the government take the 306 billion, send, for instance, 200,000 for education of university students? We'll only be able to use around 60 billion for that purpose. Send 50,000 to the 3 million students we have in high schools. We'll only be able to use around another 150 billion. So in total, we can make university education so free if we put all these funds together. And since the government is the owner of the fund, the government can send this money to every student because they have NEMIS number. We registered all our students, so the government knows the grade in which the student is, they know the school, they know the head teacher, they know the account number. So why do you have to give Mheshimiwa here money to go and give students? What for? It's the same government. So why should it pass through my voter here? And he's a very good friend of mine. But he should be given money for the roads, money for construction of those classrooms, but for bursary, send directly to the students, and we'll make education very free. Why should we have to give higher education loan board that money? Send direct to students. Why do you have to give money to county if it is for bursary? So that the governors can eat something, so that the MCS can eat something, so that the 1,800 ward bursary offices can be used to rent those offices, can be used for those committees, and every committee want to eat something. That is why we have schools that don't exist. You see a gate, but there is no school. You see briefcase schools. You see ghost students being issued the checks. You see a headmaster, a principal, colluding with the ward bursary committee, give fake names, take the money, remove from the account, give to the committees, and eat something small.
I'll come back to Mheshimiwa later on, and perhaps you'll just some of the recommendations that you've sent to the Ministry of Education on the recommendations on how you can do a complete overhaul of the education system. But Kevin, listening to the two great minds, what do you make out of this?
Victor, what I make out of this is that we need a national conversation on education. And in the same spirit that we have seen other sectors undergoing strategic reforms, we need a national education sector reforms, whether it's a dialogue or a committee or a workshop or a conference. Now, that might also not give us probably the best. But listening to my co-panelists and colleagues, sharing the different stories and indeed the experiences of students in schools and in institutions of higher learning and universities, all of them, there is a disconnect. And this disconnect is probably in the sense that whatever government is doing and planning does not resonate with vitu kwa ground. The students, the learners, from the bottom to the top, whether it's early childhood, whether it is JSS, whether it is basic education, whether it is university education, there are challenges. And so this national conversation needs to border on a number of things. As you talk about recommendations that the Committee on Education gave, remember that in the lifetime of the UDA government, Kenya Kwanza precisely, we have had other task forces and committees, beginning with the Presidential Working Party. What did they recommend? What did they see? what is the level of implementation of those recommendations, and what needs to be done around what, by who, and when. Just the other day, in fact yesterday, the other day we saw the president gazetting almost 129 people, names of people in various committees to address challenges of education, different issues, you know. And yesterday, I think the head of public service inaugurated that committee. And you ask yourself, Victor, for what purpose? So that what happens? And then, because we are quite a good nation in some of the things that we do, particularly in talking, but very minimalistic in actioning them. So that, for instance, this national conversation needs to address our education policy. What is Kenya's national education policy? What is it? Because you have a CS today who is appointed, and 2 days after, there is a complete change of the way things are supposed to be done. You have somebody appointed in some department of education in a very small time, limited opportunity you have. You've already made a raft of very many changes, which therefore breed a lot of confusion. So we need to step back and begin to ask ourselves, what are we doing in terms of achieving what? If we talk about quality education for all as our mantra, what therefore are we doing to be able to arrive at that quality education? And this all, who is this all? Because in this country, as Mheshimiwa says, I think is Sankok, you have people who have the money and they will be in band 5. They can pay for education. Some of them don't even go to class, but they sit exams and they get awarded. You have people in band 1, as Mheshimiwa Orero says, and they are very needy students. These are people who really need to be supported. But in the overall and in the overhaul, what exactly are we aiming at? Because, Victor, why I am proposing this national conversation is so that we are also able to undertake a value for money, more or less like a chain that feeds into something. Okay. So we are educating people and then we release them into the job market to go and do what? Do we have those jobs? Look at the number of learners, the number of students that graduate from our institutions of higher learning. More than 1.8 million of them. But look at the job employment opportunities we have in this country, right from white collar to blue collar to all these other opportunities. So there is need for us to just get back a little and have a conversation that feeds into all these parameters, whether it's at the higher education level, mid-level education level, and even at the level of the counties where we are talking about ECDs. Because we normally say, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. The investment that we make at whatever level is the same result that we are going to get. And so there is a need for us to begin to think through how we can have a conversation that begins at a point and is able to feed into all the issues that we are seeing and then bring out a result that really presents what Kenya's education strength, investment and policy is.
Eric, we never used to have such kind of huge numbers in the past.
The education sector has gone to certain levels of metamorphosis. Maybe Mheshimiwa Orero knows when maybe in their time they had boom. Boom went and transformed. We have undergone several changes in our education sector. But I think a challenge remains for this particular government in the sense that it would appear to me that most of their programs are suffering either legal setbacks or they are not resonating well with the people. They've just annulled the Privatization Act of 2023. There was a setback with the SHIF. There have been several setbacks. And when you look at this, the major setback has been an issue of public participation. Are you listening to the people? When the people tell you this, what is your opinion about them? Because what I feel is sometimes the government rushes to replace what is already working, to bring in a new model instead of sometimes just facing the old model as you move to newer models. I do not agree that we need more task forces, we need more consultation, because what happens in this country, the word task force, committee of experts, is just a means to delay the inevitable. Or if a problem is too hot to handle now, we create something that will make sure that in the next 4 months we are discussing about it, but in essence we know we will not do anything about it, okay? What I would suggest is that it's very clear what the student leaders are saying, who are major stakeholders. It's very clear what the students are saying. It's also very clear what members of parliament are also saying, okay? So what is so difficult in incorporating those views and enhancing that model to become better? Because remember, why we got here is because the president set up the initial task force that recommended this program. So now we have a problem. We have appointed another task force to look into the problems of the previous task force. Now, if it does not, you know, it's just a change of name. So if it doesn't work, are we then looking at another task force to look into the messes of the previous two task forces? In my opinion, we're just running away from the inevitable problems.
Which is?
I mean, we have to change the model completely. It's not working. You already have the views. You know, it's not nuclear science. You already have the views of the students, of the parents, of the members of parliament. You know, sometimes I feel government delays because they don't want to look like they're eating humble pie. But there is no humble pie in listening to your own people. Your own people are saying your thinking is good, but your implementation is horrendous. Yeah. So what we are recommending is just change 1, 2, 3, 4. You will not look bad, because at the end of the day, the success of the students is the success of you as a government. But when you hold a hard stance as a government and you say that what I want, you must take this medicine by force. Even patients refuse to take medicine. When you force them, they refuse. They say, me, I would rather perish than take this medicine. So sometimes you have to find, you know, like the way you feed medicine to a child, you must coax them, sometime encourage them. The government must find a way of listening to its own people and implementing the policies where the public have. But, you know, let's not make public participation a quick process so that we follow the law. Let us actually listen to the people and what the people are saying.
Very good. Mheshimiwa Orero, you directed the ministry through the CS to allow all the students to sit examination, whether or not have finished school fees. But then again, that overhaul is also part of the recommendation. Listening to the three gentlemen here, does this really worry you that the president, perhaps, the government, not the president, the government has, what he said, trying to cover the problem with a bandage? A very big wound.
Yeah, I think when we were talking yesterday,
yes,
the CS told us that this new task force will take 8 weeks to do their work. And we agreed that we give that framework of time to the students, that by the time they have done their exams, by the time the workforce is through, they should have come up with now the real model that we are talking about. And we were suggesting that those variables that they are using, which cannot be validated, because the validators are like NHIF, like the pay slips, the KRA. Those are what they use to validate the economic status of some of these parents. And you know, some of these parents do not even know what a KRA is. They have no NHIF. They have some of these things, they are just hearing about them. So they are not authentic. We are saying these values are not authentic. The variables themselves also do not meet the standards. Like, let's say, the size of the family, or when you are a single parent. You can be a single parent, but you are capable. We can be I could be a single parent and another one, yet me, I can pay school fees for my kids. But when you go to the weights, you find that a single parent has been allocated 15. Yeah. And both of us are not at the same economic status. So some of these variables, when you test them, then they miss the point. Maybe the size of the family. I could be having 10 kids and I'm able to pay for their fees. Somebody could be having 10 kids and cannot afford. And we have been given the same weights. So we must look at how do we arrive at these weights? Because some proposals, why can't we have a baseline? We say that all the students, you pay maybe 40,000 or 32,000. Then we look at each of these departments. If it is medicine, maybe the government pays a sixth of this. And then they give scholarships, maybe 120,000. Then they give help loan to these people, so that we have a baseline for all the students, what they can pay, and then we charge them per department for future. So we can remove some of these variables which cannot be validated authentically, and bring something that carries out all the Kenyans, like we have done with VUC. This will make the universities to survive, the government and the students. So this thing must be student-centered, where all the students can access education freely, not even if it is not freely, but in a modest way that a poor child is able to access education. So we are saying that the CS, in fact, we agreed. He said, he promised that when he comes back, he's going to bring, it is mean testing instrument. This mean testing instrument, when he comes back, he must tell us that this is what the Kenyans now want. We told them to go and have a public participation, which already people have said their sentiments. The students have aired their views, the parents have aired their views, the Ministry of Education, the Parliament Education Committee. They must concretize these ideas and come up with the means testing instruments which is geared towards solving the current problem in the education system.
So we are looking at a situation in 2 weeks, that is in 8 weeks' time. You'll have a report from the education...
hoping there will not be an extension.
Hopefully. That is in 8 weeks, that is 2 months' time.
Yeah.
So I will have this question, but I don't know whether I have enough time to ask. So what will happen to the students already, because banding has already happened? So in 2 months' time, they've come up with a report scrapping. So what will happen thereafter?
What we are saying is that now within we have intra-university, first we have intra-university transfers.
Yes.
In terms of departments, but we also have a room that the students can appeal. Like you have seen, over 11,000 students have appealed. So we told them that during this period of time, they must look at all the appeals, and all the deserving students must be put in the correct banding. Now they can pick it from there. If they put all the poor students in band 1, and those who can afford in the band 5, now they can pick it from there. When they have reorganized their system, and those who have appealed, they have listened to them, and they have definitely come out with what is unifying the problems of these people.
I think also for Mweshimiwa, once they come back to you, because the members of your committee, you know, you represent the ground. I think part of testing the tools they will come up with, you need a list of your students from Kibra, so that you say, check for me student XY. Then you see the band where that has been put, because that is authentic. It's sampling. It's part of sampling.
And that is what made us ask the CS to go back, because we had those samples.
Yes, you need
and
to do.
And the CEO of we used to test. Can you test this? And all of them were fake. None of them fitted in the right banding. So that is why we insisted that they must go and redo this means testing instrument.
Interesting.
And Victor, the Committee on Education has to be congratulated at least for being...
Not at least. It should be congratulated.
No, at least. Allow me to use the word at least. We have had serious challenges with education in this country, including schools banning, and we've not seen them summoning head teachers and even the CS to ask questions around why are schools banning.
I think that is one of the things we asked yesterday. That is why we summoned the CS yesterday to tell us about the banning of these schools. Of course, I know you might not have definite answers.
So on this one, I think that I believe that the committee needs to be appreciated, and probably in your parliamentary calendar, you need to have a mechanism of engaging with quality assurance and reporting, so that as the inspectors and the quality assurance officers go to schools and visit, a report is produced. And then the committee needs to verify and go through those reports and even make transit checks into some of these schools. And just to verify what the reports are saying and what is purely happening. And even on this issue of funding, you can also go to institutions of learning and visit.
By the way,
an impromptu.
By the way, when we are on recess, the other recess, we visited universities. We divided ourselves into two groups. One went to Western and the other one Eastern. We visited Eldoret, Maseno, all these universities, and that is how we came up with this and saw that it was not working.
Yeah.
We have visited the universities as a committee.
But Mheshimiwa, you are doing a good job in the dark.
That's why he's here.
No, that's why he's here. So I'm just saying, he's doing a good, the committee is doing a good job. But you see, the challenge of this country, when you do a good job without anyone knowing you're doing a good job, it still amounts to no job done.
No, it
almost doesn't count.
No, you see, wait. You see, politics, no. Politics is a matter of perception. If we see you to be doing it, and we feel you doing it, then to us, that is something that you have gained a milestone. Because you see, Osido is asking very pertinent questions, and you're answering in the affirmative.
Yes.
Now imagine Osido is a well-learned, well-schooled gentleman. He's not aware. What do you think about my villagers from Kiambu County?
Let's put it this way. In the next 2 months, Mheshimiwa, because he's always here with us, promise me that you'll come back with that report and perhaps get us to understand what really the finding from the Ministry of Education, and if your recommendations will be captured in that report.
Very well, anytime.
Thank you.
And you know, we are always matters that if our wishes are not met, of course we will still ask them to.
So Victor,
Mheshimiwa Sankok, the mlima is
just a bit, because you have had this conversation and I have not. Now, if they do the banding and they find some students who are put in the wrong banding and they receive more money, what will you do? Will you go and rob those families and bring the money back? Because there will be a system of assisting those who are poor and they were placed in the wrong banding and they did not have money. But now there are also those who will be found that they were put on a banding that the funding was more than what they were deserving. So I want to know how they will be able to collect. And then,
but that's like, it's like you're sitting in a committee.
You know, like you're sitting in a committee. And then again, this issue of maybe single parents. You know, that issue that you are calling that some people, there is weight given to being a single parent. That one is a good one, but then how many parents in Kenya have marriage certificate? 10%. So 90% of Kenyans are single.
A single parent.
Literally. Because how do they prove that they are married? They are married. Because a proof of marriage is a marriage certificate. So 90% of Kenyan persons are actually single. Again, the single parent, probably a female, she's alone. There is a weight there. What about people like Oscar Sudi and Kalwale, who are married to many wives? You know, you also have a burden. Did you also talk of maybe polygamists, you know, also polygamists, and put some weight on a polygamous family? Because
we said the size of the family.
The size of the family is the number of children. I'm talking about the number of wives, because when you talk about a single person, you are talking of somebody being alone. What about when there are so many? Leave alone the children. Leave alone the children. It's about how many mouths you are feeding in terms of polygamous families. You know. Also, I think they should also carry.
Because we're running out of time, Mheshimiwa, I'll give you time. It's like we are in a committee now, Committee of Parliament.
Okay.
Will you respond to that, Mheshimiwa? There's 3 questions.
No, he had asked about how maybe if some students were given more money or that. But this is just a management issue. It does not, the committee, as a committee of parliament, we cannot micromanage now the universities. So this is a management issue within the university and also within the funding institution, like the HELB. I think that is just a logistical issue that can be
give
done.
them a recommendation, but the money will be transferred to the next year.
Yeah, maybe that is what happens. But again, what he has asked about the number of wives, the size of the family. Now, those are the variables that we say are not authentic, and you cannot measure them. They are not really measurable unless we go down to the villages and the chiefs and to give a report of those kind of people, whether they are able or they are not able.
Okay. I know of a friend who have 13 wives. So you can imagine, without even considering the size of the family.
I want to do one dangerous thing here, because I only have 2 minutes.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa Sakok, what is your take on the Mrima?
Which Mulima? Because we have so many mountains. There is also Mount Elgon, so there is Kilimanjaro. I also have Mount Suswa at home. So which mountain are you talking about? Because if you are no, I just want to be specific.
Which mountain would you pick?
Yes?
Talk about.
The mountain?
Yes.
Of course, Mount Kilimanjaro is within Masai land because it is next to Amboseli. It is Masais of Tanzania. So it depends on which mountain are you talking about.
Is it slippery?
Are you talking about which mountain? Is it Mount Kenya or Mount Kilimanjaro?
The one where this tie came from.
Okay. Oh, the one with this tie. Okay. Now I understand. Now with that mountain, what I'm sure of is that what is going around in the political scene, because that is local village politics here. Local, you know, I'm a global geopolitician, so nowadays I'm a regional politician. But I've had a few things here and there about the president, the deputy president. These things will be sorted out very soon.
Will be sorted out?
Yes.
Let's leave it at that. Kevin.
Victor.
Before we give it to the owner of the tie.
All politics is local. The beauty of these processes is that our constitution envisioned that there would be talks, drama and hula baloo about impeachments, some of them successful, some of them trials, some of them unsuccessful. The matters of Kenya Kwanza are Kenya Kwanza businesses. The issues between the president and his deputy based on the foundation that they laid. And I know that we have heard that, oh, you were not supposed to be the DP, or in fact so-and-so scored higher, oh, we thought so-and-so would bring us more votes. All these issues, as Mheshimiwa Sankok says, they'll be sorted. I want to drive them to the people who are supposed to sort them out. Is the president and his deputy. The same way they agreed to appear on that ballot, because it is the law, that when you present yourself as a president, you also give us a running mate, which is printed with you. And there's a process at which we arrive at those kind of agreements. So in the same manner as they agreed, let them lock themselves. Sijui nani alitoa mwingine kwa WhatsApp groups, sijui I didn't know he was going to New York. I think that is too much for Kenyans based on what we are.
I love the way you're summarizing this, because if you were to have a whole discussion,
yes,
it would take 2 hours.
And Victor realized that this government is only 2 years and a few months old.
Yes.
They have a lot which they have not done for Kenyans, and Kenyans can't touch it. Let them spend time doing those, they are delivering those services to Kenyans.
Is that tie so tight?
Thank you, Victor. You know, as I started, I told you I'm wearing this tie. It's Rigiji's favorite tie. Once in a while, it will show up like 3 times in a week. And I'm not wearing it necessarily. Yes, 3 times.
This one, or is like that
no,
one?
it's like this one.
Okay.
And I'm not necessarily wearing it for the love of the man, but as a constant reminder that even good things sometimes come to an end. I want to advise our kingpin. Even though he said he's not the kingpin, that Uhuru is the kingpin. You know, wisdom dictates that there is a time to be with the people, which is okay, and there is also a time to mingle with your fellow leaders. Right now, even though I love Rigiji as a person from Mulima, there's nothing I can do for him. We don't have an election, so I can't vote for him. There is literally, as a person from Mulima, and you see, I'll not go to Madeira and burn tires so that Rigiji should not be impeached. I'll not do that. But in 2027, if he needs me, I can cast my vote for him. But now, it is time for him to look for Honorable Orero and the other members of parliament. Because, you know, time and chance, seasons dictate that for every season, you must use the right tool for the right season. The tool for Mount Kenya people, we love you, but now we can't help you. We can only plead with you. Oh, they have removed you from WhatsApp group. Those people are very bad. They should not do that. Oh, you are not going to events. How can they do that to you? It's very wrong. But that's as far as we can go now, sympathizing with you. But this time, you need Honorable Orero. You need other members of parliament. Please go speak to them. Go speak to the president. Those are the only people now who can save you. But for us, if you need us in 2027, we are there for you if you will survive.
I didn't know
that long.
That clever.
What do you mean?
Let's leave it at that.
You've been doubting my intelligence.
Honorable Orero, thank you so much. Honorable Orero, thank you so much. Honorable Sankok, asante sana. Kevin Osido,
You know,
asante.
you didn't give me time. I must say, I must greet my people of Kibra.
Greet them. Now, let me give
Thank you for watching. we need to check where this tie came from.
No. Let them greet these people.
No.